The first is what I believe, I'm going to be judgmental when I make this statement, the true raga. The true raga, that is the essence of all the descriptions that we discussed in the previous session. Now, I'll give you a few examples. You have a raga called Categorising, very old raga. Another thing is, it's not like ragas haven't changed. Ragas have changed like crazy. You probably would, if you heard how it was sung 100 years ago, you probably won't listen to it now. Okay? They have changed like a lot. But that's part of how they have changed. But whenever these old ragas changed, they also changed in an abstract way. They didn't change based on swaram or this or that. They changed based on phrases, reinterpretations, looking at certain notes in different ways. So many things happened. And theoreticians kept recording it constantly. So you will find differentiation between one raga mentioned in one treatise with a different note and a different treatise with a different note. So obviously practice had changed its colors. Okay? But theoreticians were recording it. Now Categorising is a classic example of raga whose scale I don't need to know to sing it. Now these old ragas are beautiful in a sense. I don't need to know the Arona Arona any day in my life to sing Categorising. Now he was telling me, for example, at lunch that he's listened to music for 60 years. You ask him to sing Categorising, he'll sing it. He may not even know what the Arona Arona is. He doesn't need to know, he'll sing it. Ask him to sing Atana, he'll sing 4 phrases in Atana and show you. How? Because it exists in the sound. When I sang this phrase, the only thing that was in my head was the sound of Categorising. Not the fact that it was Pani, that was irrelevant to me at this point. So, these phrases together is what gives you the sound of Categorising. Take Kamuji. All this is the sound of Kamu. Atana I always take as an example because I don't know the Arona or Atana even today. No Arona or Avarona or Atana will ever describe it. But I can sing a Ragam Tanam Pallavi and Atana. No problem. Because I know Atana. How do I know it? Because it is beyond this description. How did I sing this now? Instinctively, I don't have an answer to this. The fact that I know compositions in this raga, the fact that I cognitively I know how it should sound. Whatever phrase I create, I know how it should sound. I know it before I'm singing it. And my musical instinct directs me to that point. Okay? These were the older ragas. These were the ragas that evolved just as phrases. So it was a body of phrases. And it was a body that could expand. That could constantly expand. You could, so I no, it's something I did now. Okay? But I know it still sounds like a Atana. I know it sounds like a Atana. I instinctively know how it should sound like in Atana. The same phrase I can sing in a different raga, it will sound like a different raga. How do I know this? Because I just know the sound.
Yeah, which means you have somehow internalized it.
Absolutely. So what have I internalized? I have not internalized the Arona. I have internalized the phraseology. I have internalized the cognition in it. I have internalized the acoustic in it. And I have internalized the emotion in it. All that is in me. So these ragas are alive. Now we will come to the second category, which itself I have sub-categorized into different. I first go with One category which I think is relatively better, the synthetic raga. From now we're talking about the synthetic raga, the raga that means an arohana, but takes the arohana or arohana in a non-linear fashion. Classic example is Nadinakanti. Sagarima padisa sani pamagarisa is Nadinakanti. This is the arohana. It is synthetic. It is not a naturally evolved raga. Let's first agree. Even if Tyagaraja composed it. So, unfortunately, if anybody says that, it's almost blasphemous. Almost think that Tyagaraja could not have actually synthetically done something. No, he did synthetically create. Let's first throw all that out the window. It sounds beautiful. Again, it sounds beautiful. I think it sounds amazing. But there is one aspect of a non-linear scale which you need to give the benefit of the doubt, as I would say. The non-linearity opens a certain possibility of abstraction. Sagarima, the moment you place something like that, what is possible in between that Sagarima becomes many. If I said Sarigama, I wouldn't have said that. This jumping up into the scale itself opens a possibility of abstraction. Show you how. I'll probably sing phrases that you're not exactly there in Malayalam. I hope it comes. I'm just singing. I hope it arrives. Okay, your luck and my luck. But it'll still sound like Nidhi. Technically the phrase is wrong. Pamagarika is what I'm saying. Sagarima is what it says. But I was able to create it's still sounding in to all you. So this jumbling up of swans opens a slight window, keeps a little bit open in my opinion. Similarly, you have another set, a non-jumbled, which is also, well, I'm going from better to worse, okay? Then you have the non-jumbled upset, but still it probably has a different scale on ascent and different scale on descent. For example, Rima padasa sanida bamagarisa. Okay. So Rima padasa sanida bamagarisa. So the arohana does not have ga, does not have ni. Now what happens here? I'll sing a phrase called padanidapa. Now, is that wrong or correct?
Technically.
Why? But I'm coming back to me. I'm not going to San. I'll counter argue that. Hang on. Sarima padasa. So so this possibility also opens in this padanida. Now I will give you another reverse of that. Marga Hindolo, another raga. Sarigama padanida sanida magasa. Sarigasa, you have Sarigama magasa, you have Sarigama. So can you sing Magarika? Some people say, no, you can't sing Magarika. You come to Ri, you sing Magasa. But there is an opening there. There is a window over there that says you can still use this fact that both are not fixed in the same manner to play with that gaps in between. It creates different sounds. These are all constructed by human beings in order to make something more than a scale. It is not there in a scale. Let's first be clear about it. I'm just trying to say what is. Okay, now that you've said it's a scale, now let's do something with it. Okay. So I'm just trying to show you different possibilities. Personally, I don't consider these ragas. These are only synthetic creations. These are permutations and combinations. Honestly, you give it to a system, it will mathematically give you better combinations than I can take. You give a Begada to a system, I can take a challenge. I take a bet with you. It cannot provide Begada as it should provide. It may provide combinations, it will not provide Begada. Because Begada is not a set of notes in a specific order. And I can't fill it with all the data possible because I can't exhaust all the abstractions possible in Begada, right? I can personally exhaust mine, but as a community of musicians, we can't exhaust it. Right? Then you had the most crazy raga, this linear raga. It basically stifles everything that is possible. There is no raga in it. I'll take a raga next event with you. This is the scale. Now, to tell you how all these scales are pretty ridiculous, I will demonstrate one thing for you. I will sing any phrase now that comes to my head in singing. Okay. I'll sing the same phrase in Shanmugapriya. You give me any other scale. I'll sing the same phrase. Another scale. Okay, Dharmavati. It's difficult to switch, but I'll try. Same phrase. Okay? Give me another scale. I can sing basically, so what does it mean? If I can sing the same phrase in every linear scalar operation, what is distinct about one from the other? Actually, nothing but the swara positions they occupy. Nothing but the swara positions. Now, I'll give a phrase in Kamboji. I'll give you another raga that has the same notes as Kamboji. Kedaragala has. I can never sing the same phrase in Kedaragala. Okay? Technically, Pa, Ma, Ga in this position is available in Kedaragala. But I can never sing Kedaragala. Everybody will say Kamboji. Why? Because as a musical idea, it belongs to Kamboji. It doesn't belong to Kedaragala. Simendra Madhyam does not have a musical idea. You are creating an idea to it. So, anybody is willing to do this time patiently can do it. Take any Alapana recording that you find online of Shanmugapriyas and all these synthetical linear ragas and just change one note in that full Alapana and give that CD to somebody else and ask him what raga it is. Suppose you change the knee to Shanmugapriya, okay? You change the knee and give it to him. He will tell you there is Shanmugapriya. He will never detect 1 second that was actually wrongly, it was Simendra Malapana that was transferred to Shanmugapriya. He can never find out. Because Shanmugapriya or Simendra don't really have identities that are beyond the scale. They don't. So what musicians did, they started associating certain phrases to certain things. They started constructing that. But that is also flawed. I'll show you how it is flawed because those phrases are also flawed. So if you ask Dharmavati, tell me that phrase in Dharmavati, everybody will count to maximum 3. Because there is not much more than BLI. After that, it's just running up and down. Another problem. If I sing this kind of ragas, I have to constantly show you all the swaras, right? Otherwise it can sound like another one. Now for example, if there is a raga that has Sa, Re, Tu, Ga 1, Ma 1, Da 1, Ni 1. Now if I keep singing over here, it could be a raga that had different Da, no? So constantly I have to run up people and say, excuse me, this Da, excuse me, this Ni, don't do this Da, okay? I have to keep showing you that. So what am I actually doing? Very questionable. So what is the intrinsic value of this? Very questionable. Does it sound nice? Probably good. Not questioning. But intrinsic value needs to be questioned. There's another problem in this. And there's one more categorization of ragas I've done, which I'll come to the end. The other problem that happened because of this whole Merakarta issue is we started stifling even the older ragas into our own outcomes. Because we wanted to put them in this chart somehow or the other, we had to construct one Arona for them. And in constructing that, we had to probably remove elements from the raga itself in order to make it fit somewhere. All musicology and musicians combined in a community. It's a community activity. No one person is to be blamed. Yeah, nobody is to be blamed. Some people love it. Like I said, it sounds beautiful. It sounds beautiful. Shanmukriya, I love Shanmukriya. I'm very happy you love Shanmukriya. But does it have intrinsic value? Then you have to really ask that question and soul search that question. You can still love it. You can still love it. So the point is, the moment we did that, we started even, reducing the idea of the older ragas into only being combinations. That is the saddest part of this follow. For me, that is the saddest part. The point is not that we created synthetic ragas. That's fine. But we started saying even more abstract ideas had to fall into this categorization. So that's why you have musicians today battling whether this raga is a janya of that, this raga is a janya. It's actually a mindless question. What does it matter whether it's janya of this? It's actually not a janya of either. It is a raga by itself that has its characteristics.
It's something like a Asian fairy tale.
It is very similar. Actually, it's very similar. Similar actually. So, but the problem is older ragas also got stifled. So there were musicians who started. Even now we have the problem. There are musicians in the past, present, who still now will not sing certain phrases in a raga. Though, how I discovered this, I'll tell you. I used to never sing a certain phrase because it didn't fit into the scale as I understood it, or even the expanded abstract. Then I actually went back to see older notations or even older musicians singing it. Some musicians, especially the really old musicians, who started listening to me, were amazing because they didn't think so much about it. They absorbed the music and they sang the music. And in absorption, they absorbed the essence. So they sang all these phrases because they think that raga together. They didn't care whether they had need 2 or need 3 or need that. It didn't sound like that raga, just keep quiet. Don't have this nonsensical discussion. Sounds like that raga, fine. I think in a very, it sounds simplistic, but that's probably one of the most profound things anybody could say. That it sounds like that, that's it, leave it there. It's very important because that's where abstraction exists. Being able to perceive it there. Okay, there was a phrase I never sang. So I said, I just started looking back. And the profusion of the usage of that phrase in the past astonished me. So it was obviously a cleansing process that has happened by musicians because in Bella. And because we felt like it doesn't fall into the Arona, cut it out. Now by doing that, are you completely affecting an aesthetic of a raga? It's a serious question that needs introspection. This is not a synthetically created scale by you, by a permutation. This is an organically developed idea that exists like a living being in front of you. And you say, I'm going to throw this part of it out because in my synthetic world, this doesn't work. Almost partly a philosophical question, but it is. But it is an important question. So a lot of ragas have changed color. And we battle about Athana. Is Athana a janya or Shankara or not? Who cares? I care if you talk about Simendra because now another thing what they did is, now you have Simendra, no? Remove that. Remove ma and ni. It creates 100 scales in it. What now? Anybody. And I can tell you as a musician, you give me any scale now, I'll sing a raga for you now. Now, it is not some genius of mine. It is the stupidity of the idea. honestly, it's not the genius of me at all. It is the stupidity of the idea. Because what is it after all? It's permutation and combination. And if you're skilled, you should be able to do it. You shouldn't be a musician otherwise, right? So, the biggest damage that happened in this whole development is the older ragas have got affected. And have been reconstructed, re-evaluated, and completely. So, a lot of phrases that suddenly appear and say, that's wrong, that's not wrong, that those phrases existed, you erased them at some point of time because it didn't fit into your chart. So, this is one trouble. Now, the synthetic ragas themselves, like I told you, I don't give much credit as a raga idea, but yes, they are beautiful. Latangi, for example, I think the Latangi sounds beautiful. I like the sound of Latangi, I like the raga. But I don't, as an objective viewer of the analysis of the ragas, it's never going to be an Atana, it's never going to be a Bukhari, it's never going to be a Manji, it's never going to be a Gantha, it's not possible. But many of the countries, Kadaraputtaharam, are slightly better because of the jumble nature, they probably provide you a little more elbow room for abstraction. The ones that don't have same notes up and down, again, probably a little better. But this is all highly relative interpretations if you try. They are still not an Atana or a Kamboja. Because they are purely phrases. And that have webbed themselves together to give you a melodic idea. And it's important, I think the most revealing part is that nobody used the word Aroha for centuries. For centuries they never used the word. I think that was so revealing on how they thought of it. Then we have one more category of ragas that we accepted. The ragas have been imbibed from Hindustani music over the last century. Now, first of all, ragas have been in somebody asked this question about Hindustani ragas, Carnatic. There was a period when there were ragas in both systems. You know, I mean, there are like treatises there are treatises after a point of time that talk about only ragas that were practiced in the south. Some treatises talk about ragas only practiced in the north. Some, like Madhya Pradesh region. You have different regions depending on where the scholar lived, which king, all those things. There were times when they were common. Then after a point of time, you see a kind of a clear separation happening in treatises itself between certain South Indian treatises only referring to ragas that were in vogue in that region. The treatises that were written in the north were only talking about ragas. You also see perceptions, the whole, for example, the raga ragini idea, which is giving a raga pictorial form. It's nothing in the south at all. You don't have that idea at all. It's completely a tradition that came from the north. Okay? So you have differentiation coming, definitely. And you always had cross. Now, for example, the raga Sahana that we sing is probably a raga that came from, no, I won't say Hindustani music, but northern regions. It was a raga that came from northern regions. It was not a raga that's intrinsically South Indian as much as we would like to believe it today. It was not. Kannada, 100% not. Kannada did not exist at all. Till probably, I don't think it even existed before the 1800s. In our whole tradition. Because when Kannada came in, two ragas that had colors of Kannada, one changed, other disappeared. One was a raga called Darbar. Not like you hear it today. Darbaru had a lot of flavor of what you think of Kannada today. Okay? Then there's a raga called Carnatic Kapi. That had a lot of flavors of what you call Kannada today. That disappeared. Darbaru changed shape.
The name Cambodia is accidental to Cambodia.
Cambodia is correct.
Yeah.
Cambodia Desha.
It's
That's accidental. Those, in my opinion, those associations are slightly far-fetched. They're far-fetched. See, like I said, Yerukala Cambodia, Yerukala tribe. Some scholars have said they come from the Yerukala tribe. Now, I am not in a position to say yes or no, but there is no other reason why we should believe that. If you had some corroborative evidence in some fashion that said this was described in something in somewhere, then you can probably say yeah. But just with the name, especially considering the subcontinent had these things floating around everywhere and used it, so I don't know whether we can come to such conclusions. I mean, I don't know.
There is a story about Ravana being an expert for Cambodia and
which era do you live in? Which era do you live in?
it's supposed to be actually 4000 years BC as well.
I don't go beyond Jesus Christ. I don't know. See, not being religious, that's not the point here. I think the fact is that we've always associated arts and music with temples, architecture, religion, everything. So actually, that, in my opinion, that shows, as in any society, where they place arts. I think that's how I would perceive something like that. I would look at, why have you positioned arts as being such an intrinsic part of, say, iconography? Why should Saraswati play a veena? Okay. Just tell me a reason. She would still be a goddess, right? We would still worship her. We all worship her. Right? So the fact is that how do we view music, dance, and the arts in perception to our life that's the value I would like to take out of that. Apart from our own religious inclinations. That apart from that. So whether Ravana played, he's supposed to play Bilal, he played Kamboji, no? Actually? Yeah, Ravana played Kamboji. Correct.
It's Kamboji in Tamil. I don't know why you're saying G.
Some people say Kamboji, but Kamboji is what they used to say. Kamboji.
Cambodia is the place.
Kamboji is what they say.
Then in Afghanistan.
No, Cambodia.
But he's right. Cambodia Desha was near the Gandharas and the Kambojas were in Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, what is it? Kazakhstan, that whole region is where they were from. Now, whether this raga came from Cambodia Desha, I don't know. Whether it's possible, probably. It's possible, right? Because they were traveling. So, whether this melody came from that Cambodia Desha, I don't know. I really don't know. Because if it did, it probably did. But the fact is that during the times of the Guptas or the Mauryas, there was a lot of battles and community travel from here and there. But the problem is there was no idea of a raga then. Then, what was Cambodia? What is Kamboji? So
it's difficult to say, when we were seeing Indus Valley civilization is very old. I'm sure there's some music in there.
there was no idea of a raga until 6th century AD.
How do you know?
Because I read enough treatises to tell you that.
Are you saying term raga? The concept of raga?
The concept of the raga as a technical sense did not exist. See, the music that was practiced in ancient India, which Bharata talks about, is a very different music. It was not based on raga music. First, let's define that. The music that is there in the Silapati Garam was not raga music. Today we will tell you Silapati Garam, Hari Kamboji. Now the pun itself has two stages of development. The pun as referred to in Silapati Garam. First of all, Silapati Garam is not a musical treatise. It's a story that has music scattered around it. The commentary for the Silapati Garam was written, if the Silapati Garam is dated 2nd century, depending on when you want to date it, was written in the 10th century. Adiyar Kanalvar was one, the other one I forget the name. So there was 800 years between the Silapati Garam and the commentary. The commentary was written on the basis of the Silapati Garam and another treatise called the Panchamradha. By then there was so much mixture of Sanskrit tradition, Tamil tradition already happening in southern peninsula. So by the time the commentary had written, you had what the roots of Indian classical music as we see today starting to come up. The raga as an idea was only first ever mentioned. Raga is mentioned in a different context. Raga also means color. Okay, as in a technical sense, only in the Brihadeshi Matanga. Till then, you don't have the idea of the raga at all. Anywhere you don't have it. Now, the pun is equivalent to raga, but the pun as we view it today is equivalent to raga as we view it today. Let's put that also into context. Now, to believe that the pun did not change for 1,000 years, I am not going to believe it. Because we know how changes happened.
I mean, language will change.
Ever. So there are so many layers to these things that you cannot flip and say right, wrong, left, right, white, black. It's all very, very layered. And we must be willing to accept that these layers exist in our perception. So, whether it came in Cambodia Desha or not, we don't know. And first of all, this name did not have to do anything with Cambodia. This is a melodic identity. Okay, this is not some quote proclamation. It's a melodic idea. It's not a quote proclamation. So these kind of associations we can do.
If we take raga as those four concepts of raga, right?
Yeah.
Then the same concept existed in, if not terms of raga, and something else, or did it miss something?
No. See, you're trying to get me to talk about ancient music, which is very complex. I don't want to. I don't want to at all because I'll just completely confuse the hell out of everybody here. Yeah, let's not even go there, let's leave that aside. Now, finally, the Hindustani ragas that came to South India in the last century, they are very important. You take the Bihag, the Sindhu Bhairavi, the Chonpuri. These are ragas that came, but even before, like I said, there have been ragas that have been exchanged from here to there. Kamas, for example, was also something that was taken. It's accepted today. Some people even believe that what we call Todi today came from somewhere in Turkey and all that. So there are people who believe so many things because the Makam music, you have all these Iranian, you have all these things, all these cultural, we don't know. That I don't know, but Kamas we know, Sahara we know, Kanda we know, all these we are very clear about.
What is the raga used to disappear with Kannada?
Carnatic copy. Carnatic copy.
So
Sumasarika is a different copy. He calls it Carnatic copy, but that's closer to what copy you understand today. The Carnatic copy I'm referring to is there in a composition by Muthuswami Dikshit. But we hardly sing it because most of what we sing in that we are singing in Kannada today. Okay. For it's basically also the what do you say? The survival of the fittest almost at some point in time, right? This is pretty much the survival of the fittest also. Now there's something very interesting about how we've adapted Hindustani ragas into our system. Now the Bihar is still an abstract idea, even in Carnatic music. When we adopted Bihar into Carnatic music, we took a lot of pakads, sanchalis, but we made them ours. And we also evolved our own formations. We did not take Bihar as an Arohana This is never there in Hindustani. They'll never sing this in Bihar. We'll sing it. This is amazing. This is brilliant. Okay. We have actually taken an abstract idea, made it ours, and given it our own quality to it. So when we sing Bihar, we don't need to sound like a Hindustani musician. That's something that also needs to be said. The Bihar we sing is the Carnatic Bihar. I am not singing Bihar that Amir Khan sang. That's his Bihar. He never gives this sound to it. Take any javelin. Nirupamana Samina Nilayamuna Kuram Manave Nirupamana Samina Nilayamuna Kuram Manave. This is pure Carnatic music. This is not Hindustani music. Take Sindhuveri. We never taken Sindhuveri as a scale. You've heard Alikudi Ramarajanga sing Sindhuveri. It will not sound like even any shade of Hindustani music. It will sound like it is some solid Carnatic raga with all the shapes, but it sounds like Sindhuveri. That's amazing. That's phenomenal. He sang Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahige Jo Pid Paradi Jane Re Vaishnava Janato. This is what he sang it, by the way. Sindhuveri. His tune. It's Sindhuveri, but it's Carnatic Sindhuveri. This is not Hindustani music. I am not singing Hindustani music. I am singing Carnatic music. Jhompuri. Still adapted as an idea. Mand. I think up to Mand, we applied it as an idea. Then we also changed. Just like we created synthetic ragas, we have started adapting Hindustani ragas in our scales.
What is the Carnatic music raga?
What? For what?
What Ilayaraja says?
Mand is Indian. Ilayaraja told you that Mand is a Carnatic raga. Ilayaraja does not know Carnatic music. As much as I don't know Hindustani film music, I can tell you now Ilayaraja does not know Carnatic music. He may get Padma Vibhushan, he still does not know Carnatic music. No. Mand is not a South Indian raga at all. It's a raga that is purely Hindustani origin, and we have adapted again beautifully into our own idea. Now, if you take Jodhpuri, the example I take is what Madhuraman used to say. It's a classic example. What is Hindustani about it? Nothing. This is pure Carnatic music with all the heaviness that we like, right? So, yeah.
So what is this Carnatic and Hindustani ness of the music that you are attributing to those
That is where the gamakam.
Maybe just in one phrase, just sing the
Okay.
Hindustani and the.
Now, if I was going to sing, like the main thing I talked about is, and that's why I reiterated the gamakam and the complete gamakam. That's what I said. The difference exists in a bass level in the sound. This flavor will not come in a Carnatic way. We can adapt it and sing it, but in a purely Hindustani, we never sing it. Na, this far more pure tone sounding movements generally is more used. Can you see heaviness in it? Can you feel heaviness? You can, right? You can actually feel heaviness. Now, in my musicality, I can mix both, do whatever. That's a different thing. But purely, there's a difference. The difference is mainly in the gamaka. The way the gamakas, the swaras move, they relate with each other. The way they associate with each other, make a sounding together, is where the differentiation happens. And that's why I said it's difficult for a Hindustani musician to sometimes listen to Carnatic music because of this heaviness that happens. But if you can cross that barrier, then you come to a different world. Not a better world, a different world. Just a different world. Okay?
Actually, when I hear this, right, like I haven't got a definition. Now when you sing again, right? So a Hindustani guy would squirm when he hears Carnatic music. Would actually say that's bland.
True. And you know what you say? That's light. A Carnatic musician will say light up alada. Don't sing light. That's what a Carnatic will. And Hindustani musician will say sometimes you even think you're singing basur. It's on. It's absolute basur in his ears. But it's absolute music for me. You know why? Because of his habituation of listening to that sound in a certain way. That's all. Simple as that. But the one point here is the fact that Carnatic music within its soundings has a lot of aspects that Hindustani music has. Makes it easier for a person who has listened to Carnatic music to associate with Hindustani music. So a lot of the movements they sing, I sing. I know it. Na, it's not alien to me. It's not alien to me at all. It's absolutely alien to me. Or her. So that makes it more difficult for them to perceive beyond that. But it gives us a little advantage in being able to appreciate. Definitely gives us an advantage. Being able to appreciate. We have to remember that. Yeah. So we had these ragas, but now we have also started adopting Hindustani ragas in a scalar fashion. We have started removing the packets that they themselves give to those ragas, and we have taken them as scales. And so we treat them like we would treat any other scale that we are treating them. This is also happening. So I have categorized the kind of ragas into 5-6 blocks. One, the old organic ragas, phrase-based ragas. Two, the synthetic jumbled swaram or vakra swara ragas. The synthetic ragas that don't have all the swaras in ascending descent. The synthetic all linear ragas. The Hindustani ragas that are adapted. Each have a different quality about them. But all the synthetic categories have in them a feature that they are bound by the scale or the arohana, avarohana to a large extent. Whereas the older ragas and some of the Hindustani ragas we adapted are not bound by an arohana, avarohana. They are bound by what they are in a holistic sense, as we have discussed.